Yeah. G'day, campers. How are you? And welcome to a very special Thursday Night Live this week, talking about drugs, drug addiction, and all parts of the drug world. Tonight, I'm very, very grateful to have three amazing people join us around the campfire. I've got Glenn Munso from the YouTube program, the author of Drugs Don't Discriminate and I knew I was getting it right. And Life Beyond Drugs. And so, welcome, Glenn.
Thank you. The second book's I Quit Drugs Now.
I've been practicing this all day, and I knew I was getting it. So, thank you, mate. So, and welcome to Bianca Hawkins from the YouTube program, and an amazing person.
Thank you. I'm really excited for this. So thanks for having me.
No, brilliant. Thank you. And we've got Vaughn Williams from Victorian Brotherhood, and has been through the YouTube program. Welcome, Vaughn.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here and proud to be with you guys here too.
Brilliant. Thank you. Now, in the last week and a half, Glenn, Bianca, and Vaughn have all done their one-on-one interviews. I would really like for everybody to go back to those interviews and actually see those interviews and understand the amazing people of which they are. I've learned a lot just in having the interviews with them. And tonight we're going to get pretty raw and we're going to talk open and honestly about a lot of opportunities in a world of addiction and a world of drugs. So I'm going to ask everybody to hold their questions until we've actually spoken about it. And then we're going to take questions from anybody who would like to have anything answered. So it's going to be a pretty big night. All right. So tonight I'm going to open up the conversation with something that all Bianca, Glenn, and Vaughn are all part of the YouTube program. The YouTube program is having a significant difference in our community. I want more people to know and understand about this program because drugs aren't actually the problem, but we'll talk about that later. Firstly, I'm going to read something was put up in the campfire earlier today, and something that I think all three of you should be extremely proud of. Dear Scott, I am just one of the many that have been literally saved by the Brotherhood, and specifically by Vaughn. I haven't met him face to face yet, as I only joined the Brotherhood in July. But from the moment I joined Vaughn has been the most active and supportive person within the group. His presence is always there, and anyone who spends any time within the group cannot miss him. He's the first to check on you if you are feeling down, the first to offer you help or ask for help. I myself have been a recipient of a food voucher through the Brotherhood, and it was hard for me to ask for that help. But Vaughn spoke to me over the phone and made sure I was okay, and made sure to reassure me there was no shame in asking for help. I was also lucky enough to have Vaughn put me forward as a candidate for a sponsored spot by the Victorian Brotherhood in Glenn Munso's 21-day addiction and mental health program, which we actually just finished today. This program and the support group have changed my life. I was in a pretty dark place for the most of the first half of the year. Vaughn and the Brotherhood showed me there was hope and help and support if I would only reach out my hand and take it. Glenn's program is teaching me how I am able to reclaim my life from that dark place. I am actually taking part in the third round of the program because I know I still have much I need to learn to be able to keep myself above water. Sorry for the long comment. I just wanted to testify to how much of a difference this man has made. Not just to me, but just to me. There's one Joe Blogs who, while I have my own story, haven't been through half of what he or indeed many of the blokes in the group have. They are making a difference. I'm so proud of the three of you for that. Starting with that, that's a big, big tick. So I'm going to open up tonight with a question. What was your pathway to drugs? I'm going to start with Vaughn.
My pathway to drugs is in my younger years, I don't remember much before I was a teenager. My brother died when I was 13, and I had problems there. My dad was going through trauma himself, and as a young fella, you don't understand that. And I felt so much pain from that, and I was numb from that, and battled for a few years, and tried drugs when I was younger. Tried anything I could try to make myself feel better about myself. And then once I was so that's all a bit blurry because I had a car accident when I was 18, and my other brother died when I was 18. And then I had anything that could numb me and make me feel better, make me feel like I'm not who I am, make me feel like anything inside. I used anything, and I ended up on speed and ecstasy and MDMA, and it was pretty much solid drug addiction from there.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Bianca? Sorry, Bianca, what was your pathway?
My pathway to drugs was... Sorry, it's cutting in and out.
We'll see how we go. Are you okay, Glenn and Vaughn? Can you hear?
You ready?
Okay? Yeah, please.
My pathway to drugs was when I was 12 years old. So my pathway drug was marijuana. I do believe that the only reason that was my pathway drug was because it was accessible for me. I grew up in a house where my stepfather openly used cannabis. I knew where he kept it. I knew where it was. So yeah, for me that was accessible. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it at all. It wasn't for me. I didn't. Downers wasn't my ideal way of escape. But like I said, it was accessible. At that stage in my life, I think that you know, I suppose I didn't realize really deeply what trauma I was running from at that stage. But I obviously, you know, I didn't know my real dad growing up. And I watched my mum put herself in a relationship where she was abused mentally and physically, you know, almost weekly. Through my childhood, pretty traumatic situations happened that I witnessed, and I suppose I just wanted to escape that reality. He wasn't a very nice man. He wasn't nice to me. He wasn't nice to my mum. He was abusive to me, so it was just an escape for me. I made a lot of friends in high school, and I just used to party with them as my escape from reality. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Glenn?
I think like for me, you know, it was all, I guess maybe like a social thing at first. You know, it was, you know, like weekends, you know, like what it would have been like year 9, you know, when you're sort of like drinking, you got fake IDs, and you sort of like, I guess, experimenting as such, you know, with weed anyway. But I guess like for myself, I didn't realize how bad it got till later on, but it was obviously just a weekend thing for a while. And then it just came into like an everyday habit. But now that I kind of think about it, you know, my parents are sort of like split up at the time, like finally kind of like parted their ways. As such, you know, my sister's, you know, 10 years older than me. My older brother's 8 years older than me. So then it was just me and my little brother were 18 months apart. And after all the trauma and all that sort of stuff that my mum went through with my dad, there was sort of like a period where I felt, you know, we kind of like stopped and looked around and was like, where is everyone? Do I even have parents? So I think there was like a lot of, you know, leadway. There was a lot of freedom. You know, I was young, and you know, my dad was working heaps, and there was just you know, my mum was dealing with what she was with my dad, because she had to leave, because that's how bad it was getting. And I think that was probably like the start of it, you know, me just dealing with what was actually happening. And then just dealing with all the internal battles that I had, like growing up, you know, all the fighting, all the abuse that I used to cop from my dad, at such a very young age as well. And I think that sort of like led me down that path as well. You know, my parents had split and I was, you know, like 15, and my dad used to call me up drunk and, you know, pretty much like emasculate me and saying, you know, what kind of man, you know, lets their mum, you know, with another man and all that sort of stuff. She had a partner and all that sort of stuff and moved on. But there was a lot of that kind of tormenting going on and stuff as well from him, which I guess I kind of just wanted to just escape it all, really. It was just too much. And I guess that would sort of just be, yeah, just mixed in with anger towards my dad and just wanting to hurt him as such, you know, later on. But yeah, I guess that was kind of like the start of it. Now that I kind of look back on it, it would have stemmed from that early age of maybe feeling like abandoned, lonely, angry, confused, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, and it just escalated from there.
Yeah, awesome. Look, and unless I say awesome, it's not. But we've all got a story. You know, I started smoking weed at the age of 12. You know, and I was moving weed at the age of 14 that I was actually getting from my part-time job. That my mother actually found my supply under the bed, took me to the police. Didn't go through with it, and then I ended up at that point blowing up and ended up on the street, along with other scenarios. That was my first experience in the world. I then moved to alcohol, and then I blew myself apart until I was 23. Then I hit the UK, and then I hit the party scene. So my involvement was the fact that I didn't, at that stage of my life, my mum wasn't, she was doing the best she could with what she had. She was doing an amazing job. But the reality was we didn't have any money. We didn't have any support.
Yeah.
I didn't have the tools to deal with life myself.
Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that and starting it out. We're going to move through a few questions we've already got laid out, and we'll open them up as we go along. And if anyone's got any questions, please take notes and then write them down and share it with us. Okay. So we're going to now move into what are the effects of drugs? So if we could start by letting people know what we've used and what that's done to us, and possibly even, you know, because we just get an understanding now of drugs. Yeah. So if we can start again with Vaughn, if that's okay.
Well, I've used a lot of drugs, but the main ones I use, I started off basically when I was actually properly using drugs, was MDMA, ecstasy, which most of the time it's MDMA, but you don't know what it's with because there was pills with anything, and speed. And then once the speed trade died out, I got on to ice and MDMA. Yeah. Those are the drugs I used, and the effects of it, like, and I understand why the studies are in with MDMA for post-traumatic stress and stuff like that, because to me, it brought me to outside of my world. It made me feel on a high, it made me feel that I wasn't in the hurt that I was in. It was masking that. The speed was the same. The speed, to me, settled my brain down and made me actually look at the world, because I didn't deal with my trauma, and that's what I believe it's from. But it made me slow myself down, which I know people around me, it used to build them up. But to me personally, it pulled me down to a level and actually made me feel more human, if that makes sense. And the ice, I was using ice because it was the next thing closest to speed, and speed wasn't really around anymore. And I found that the effects of it changed as time went on, because people make it with anything and they jump on it with anything, and then it wrecks your mind and actually clouds your mind afterwards. But at first, you feel this high, and you want to chase that high each time you do it. You want to try and get to the same point each time.
Yeah. Thank you. Bianca?
Do you want to know the effects, like long term? Yeah. All right. So my drugs of choice were ice and GHB. But I used MDMA, speed, marijuana, cocaine, pretty much anything except heroin that I could get my hands on. The effects, well, GHB sort of speaks for itself. It's grievous bodily harm. It's used as the date rape drug. Basically, you take it, and if you accidentally take a little bit too much, that's it, you're gone. Out cold. Basically, when they use it as a date rape drug, people have no recollection of what's happening to them. Almost anything could be done with your body, and you won't remember. So yeah, I was using that as an escape. Ice as well. So the effects that ice had on me were, it was pretty drawn out process. At first, when I first started using it, it was basically the same as Vaughn. Couldn't really get access to speed anymore. It'd become really old school. Ice was a lot easier to get your hands onto. And everybody liked it a lot more. It was a lot more expensive, but it lasted a lot longer. But the effects that had on me, like I said, it was long and drawn out. At first, like it was, I was high, like I felt like I was living like up the top of my game. I didn't really. I was oblivious of the trail of destruction that I was leaving behind me, and literally, like. There has been multiple times that people said to me, do you look behind you? Do you see that like trail of destruction that you just leave everywhere you go? Because I did not care. There was not one part of me that cared about anything other than, where I was going to score from. And that was basically it. That was all I cared about. The effects of that it had not only on my mental health took a really big downward spiral, because I lived in that guilt and created a lot more guilt for myself by everything that I was doing to my family, my friends, anybody that tried to help me. I would basically just let them down, let myself down, and then that in turn turned into more using. It took a toll on my body as well. I was probably about, 42 kilos for the majority of the time. And anybody that knows me, like I was very, very skinny. I was very unwell. I noticed more of the effects that the drugs had on me once I started getting clean, because I took it in my stride to make sure I tried anything and everything that was good for me, for my mental health, for my body, for my skin and everything. So anytime a test was offered to me, like, would you like to test your liver function, all that sort of stuff, I would put my hand up. Would you like to know your body fat percentage? I'd put my hand up, because these were all things that I wanted to learn about my body. And the more I learned about my body, the more I learned what effects the drugs had on my body. It takes a toll on everything. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Glenn.
The effects was everything, really. It was just a massive ripple effect that went into my mental health, went into my spiritual health, went into, my emotional health, really, I guess, wrecked all parts of me. It made me, very, very paranoid. It also made me very angry. It made me very anxious. I think the effects was just really, really strong in terms of like everything, really. And that sort of just spread onto family members and my loved ones closest to me as well. But obviously, I did try. I did go on benders, having ice and pills and stuff like that. And at the time, I was like, oh, it's new, because I dropped out of high school, so I was the only person that could get pills, and everyone was smoking weed, and I was like, oh, everyone's got to try this new stuff, and and then that just escalated and went into ice and stuff like that. But you're up for days, and then when you're up for days, you don't function. Think of how hard it is to function just off, shit nights, the sleep of 5 hours. Imagine being up for a day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days. But it really fucked with my head in terms of like seeing shadows and all that sort of stuff. I was just like, I can't sort of like, I didn't go hard in terms of, it wasn't like I was everyday ice user for a year or stuff like that. But, when it did do the benders, I went hard. And that just, when I look back on it, I'm like, I now understand how people can get so paranoid where they, lose their shit. Because when you're in that, it's just so hard. And, even just detoxing off it, I smoked a lot of weed, and I used to smoke almost like, 5 to 7 grams of weed a day. So I smoked a lot, and just even coming off that, so much, like I used to wake up in the middle of the night with so much sweat where I literally thought I pissed the bed. And that was just constant. I didn't sleep. I was more like passing out for an hour here and there. Probably didn't sleep for a good 2-3 weeks. Didn't get my appetite. All that sort of stuff. And, even just doing my school, I remember doing my school while I was coming off drug, and I was just paranoid. I was in class and I'd just constantly like be looking over my shoulder, like, people laughing, people talking, and I'm like constantly just thinking that they were talking about me, or, it was about me. So in terms of that, yeah, it definitely affected a lot of, those areas in terms of my mental capacity, as what was sort of like going up here. And then it just, the ripple of effect of it was just damaging. It was destructive, and it was, it destroyed me, and it destroyed my mom. It destroyed my dad. It destroyed people, and my paranoia went on to their paranoia and turned into their insecurities and all that sort of stuff. So everything that I was feeling, obviously, your parents are always going to be emotionally, spiritually like connected to you. So they are feeling everything that you're feeling as well, through these times. So I guess the effects were, for me, it was just massive, and it just rippled out through my family.
Yeah, awesome. And I've got to stop saying awesome, but I'm in admiration for the honesty. So I myself, I don't understand the ice world. I've never been down that road. My weed, speed, ecstasy, and cocaine. Weed when I was young, I greened out and I never got back onto it. Then I drank myself into oblivion until I was 23. Then I hit the party scene in the UK. In the party scene in the UK, MDMA, which made me feel, for lack of better words, a feeling of love and beyond what I could feel as a person. It gave me a confidence and an opportunity to spend time with people and share that. Speed kept me going. I was a high-functioning cocaine user, speed user for a long time. And the cocaine, for me, was an escape from the pressure I was under in my own world, because I didn't have, looking back now, I didn't have a support network around me to help me get through my opportunities in life. that I took that into my workplace. I had that inside, openly inside my workplace. I was a heavy user, half ounce of cocaine a week. So it was a big deal for me. And then ice went through my company. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know it was there, but I got the full whack of the effect of that community. So I'm nervous sharing tonight. This is the first time I'm doing that, and you three are giving me permission to actually own my story as well. So I want to thank you for that, because I think it's actually unfair for me to sit here and have this discussion with you and not give you the honesty of my life as well. So I really appreciate that. With Ike and the psychosis that goes in behind that, can we talk about that? Because it's something I don't understand. My benders in my day were Thursday sort of through to Sunday, and that was with sleep in between. Has anyone had experience of the ice benders beyond that sort of period? Can we talk about that for a moment?
Yeah. Did you want to go, Vaughn?
I think Bianca.
You can go first, Bianca.
Yeah.
So my my benders would be sorry, I'm just trying to find the best way to say this. 2 weeks I would go without sleep. And that was a normal. So I might not sleep for 2 weeks, and then I sleep for 48 hours. And then I don't sleep for another 2 weeks, sleep for 48 hours. And in that space, it was pretty much the same with food as well. So I probably wouldn't sleep. I probably wouldn't eat unless I'd just woken up. And I wouldn't go to sleep unless I had something to wake up to as well. I had many psychosis moments, one of which I spoke about in our one-on-one chat. So when I spoke about being trapped in that lady's house, that was all real. That was all a 100% reality. I know that. What was psychosis in it was, it was 100% real. She would not let me leave that house. But what was the psychosis in it, and the bits that I'm still not sure whether or not they're true or not, was, the stuff that she was saying to me. I wasn't sure if I was actually hearing it or if I thought that I was hearing it. She was saying that people were after me and that people had hurt me, that I didn't know about, that I'd blocked it out, and just started to fill my head with all this stuff to the point where I broke. That was one pretty extreme moment for me. I've had moments where I could have sworn that I was living in another reality. Like, I literally felt like I was the only person alive. There was nobody around, and what I was seeing was a reality version of what I'd seen somewhere else. So I was staying with my grandparents. Probably it was, I don't know, probably the January or February before I got clean in 2015. And I remember seeing my granddad working at this garden bed thing that he'd built. And I remember the little tiny picket fence that he'd built around this garden bed. So anyway, one night when I was completely in psychosis, literally thought I was the only person alive, I took out my diamond earrings and left them on the ground, left my phone on the ground, because I thought I was shedding layers of myself. And this is all in the middle of the night. And I walked around and I seen this garden, and it had the same picket fence that my granddad had built around this miniature garden. So I felt like that was my safe space, because that had to be my grandparents' backyard, because that picket fence looked exactly like the garden bed that my granddad had made. There's many of moments that I had. That's just a couple of the ones that stand out to me right now, because I haven't really spoken about them for a very long time, especially like people around me know that I went in and out of psychosis, but they don't really know what went through my mind. I used to chase numbers, so messages from whatever. Like I used to like pick up rubbish off the ground because I thought that I was getting left messages from some sort of guidance. I would literally carry a handbag around full of rubbish off the ground, and then when I got the chance, wherever I was going, I would lay it all out on the ground and I would try and make up a message to make myself feel better about the situation that I was in. You can imagine, if you don't sleep for 2 weeks, like Glenn was saying, even if you don't sleep for one night, like me now, I know I had a shocking night's sleep last night, and I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, and all day I felt like red in the face and my eyes felt like sore. Imagine not sleeping for 2 weeks. Like, nobody can function like that. Your body, your organs, your mind, nothing can function like that. It's beyond me how I'm alive, just not regardless of the drug use. Just the stuff that I put my body through, and the mental pain, those psychosis, they could have gone a hell of a lot worse. I would hear voices in houses and think that they were people that I knew, and that I had to go in there. It's, God forbid if I ever did just walk into somebody's house because I thought I knew somebody lived there, or these are all effects of like not sleeping. We can't put ourselves through that and expect not to have some sort of repercussion. And psychosis is something that isn't probably spoken about enough of, and I should probably open up with some of the people in the program about that, because it is something that is very normal for what you're putting yourself through. You can't expect to be awake for that amount of time and do that to your mind and your body and not be seeing things. Some of the things that I was in psychosis, like when I was in psychosis, so some of the things I told myself that I was hearing did help me. It helped me find a way out, because it made me paranoid of the right people, and it made me seek help. So at the end of the day, some of it I can make a little bit of sense of now, but there's a lot of it that I cannot, and I would not wish on anyone.
Thank you. Well,
And I'd agree with Bianca. The last thing she said there. There's a lot of stuff that I can make sense of out of it. There's bits and pieces I can. Most of it I still can't make sense of to this day, and it's part of that. It's when I first started, I used to go on a bender, and the same sort of thing. You go for like 2 weeks, and as soon as you hit 4 or 5 days, your head doesn't function to the point that you're trying to grab a. And it's not even that you're drunk; it's because you can't comprehend what's in front of you. You can't comprehend the things that are happening. And I used to end up forcing myself to eat, because your body's not getting any nutrition. You've been away for that. They use that as a torture technique, sleep deprivation. And I spent, when I worked, when I was younger, 2 years, I used to spend up 6 days a week and 250-gram cervicals. I used to fight it. I used to enjoy the fighting it, and then go to sleep and sleep for a full day, sleep for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But it was the things I'd hear voices. You sit there in a room that no one's around. You got no houses around or anything. You still sit there and think someone's talking to you in the next room. It was, and you thought it was real. And that's the thing of the psychosis. It feels so real. At times, you can sit there and tell yourself, it's not real. It's not real. But part of you feels that it's real, because it feels so real. It feels like someone's standing there talking to you. And I tried to work a way around it. Like I said, I worked out that 4 or 5 days, then I'd start to lose my shit. So I'd stay up 6 days and sleep and force myself to eat, thinking that I was fixing it, but I wasn't fixing anything. Yeah. And the prolonged effects of that, then sitting there trying to comprehend what's actually happened in the past, and what of it's real and what of it isn't real because of that psychosis.
Were you fearful in that psychosis?
No.
Okay.
I wasn't fearful in it, but I thought things that weren't there. I wasn't scared in the psychosis.
Yep.
But I could have went and done something really stupid a lot of those times, thinking that it was real. So I could have done. It scares me now afterwards, but in the time when I was in that moment, it didn't scare me. I wasn't fearful of it. It's not like I'm walking down the street and I hear a voice that it scares me. That I was half in that reality and half wasn't, because I'm sitting there to myself, telling myself it's not real. It's not real. I know no one's there, but it was only that I was strong enough not to react to it. But like what Bianca said, what if I sit there and reacted to that voice and went and did what I thought was said to me and the things that were around me?
Yeah.
And it quite easily could happen. I've seen it happen to people. I had a bloke that was out with me and had the same sort of thing happen and started trying to bite his fingers off because he thought they were carrots.
Yeah. And that is what the psychosis starts doing. You start believing things that aren't as they are.
Yeah.
So if it's all right, Bianca, same question to you. Were you fearful in your psychosis, or were you just bulletproof?
It depends. It depends at what stage of the psychosis. I do believe, like at the start, probably feeling a little bit fearless. But by the time you realize, like, fuck, my mind is totally out of control. Like, I can't control these thoughts. I can't control what is happening right now. Like, that's scary. That's scary because you can't get away from it because it's not actually external. Like, you think at the start and then you realize it's your mind. Like, that, you can't get away from that. That's scary. And, am I going to be okay? Like, am I going to be able to make this stop? That's scary. So I do think at the start,
I understand that.
Yeah, when you're still, high and flying and you're just borderline, when you're just tipping your toes into that psychosis, bulletproof, 100% bulletproof. And you see people do ridiculous things because they're on that border, riding trains or jumping in front of cars or whatever it might be, like, because they feel bulletproof. But, spend a little bit more time in that mindset. And, it gets very scary very, very quickly because it won't stop.
Yeah. Thank you both for that. Glenn, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I personally never went through psychosis myself, so
yeah, and that's the whole point. Everybody's got different experiences. Like I myself was 20 foot tall and bulletproof, and I was that way for a long time. So awesome. Again, thank you, because this is a very real topic, and we're talking about the actual nuts and bolts of everything to get us to where we want to get to, which is life beyond drugs. But we're going to go through the whole scenario because people don't understand the true effects of drugs. They don't understand what's going on with people. So tonight we'll get as much as we can out, and then we're going to finish with the big focus of the whys.
Yeah.
So if it's okay, why do people use drugs? So, Glenn, if we can start with you, like you started talking about, your parents, that's why you started using drugs, but what was the continuation for it for you? Where was it for you?
For myself, or do you mean in general?
Yourself.
I guess I was just in that spiral, or just almost like gaining momentum in a negative, toxic, destructive way. And the more momentum I got, I was almost addicted to that momentum. Really, it was like, how bad and how far can I bring this? You know, I was using drugs, and then I was selling drugs, and now what? You know, if it was just, started off with just selling, QEs here and there, to ounces, and ounces went to, half pounds and pounds, and it was just like more, and then with that, it was just, I was just, when I do something, I'm all in, and it just, I guess, just kept getting worse, I guess, in that, and it's obviously started as that escape, and if it's like, the more you're escaping, and as the momentum takes you further and further and further and further away. If this was the issue here, you've escaped, and then the momentum just keeps going, and you're just avoiding everything and anything that comes in way. But you also, kind of just getting angry as well. But I had a lot of underlying issues that I needed to address and resolve within myself. You could say trauma, that I had to work on, that I had growing up as a kid, in my family dynamic, the relationship between myself and my dad, so many points, now that I look back and, all the work that I've done, I felt very powerless and very emasculated for so many years as a young kid, by my dad, who was so like aggressive and just, which I guess I felt like someone, had taken my power as such, my voice, my power, everything. And, when I guess had to do the work to figure out, where all this stems from, a lot of it came back to those childhood dynamics and, the issues that I had, growing up with my dad and my family, and all the trauma, all the shame, all the guilt, all the confusion, all that sort of stuff as well. And I think once the trauma is sort of like trapped in your body, you got to learn the tools that you need to do to kind of like release that. And I really, really kind of like dug deep into all that, because I do believe like your body's holding on to that trauma. And I did a lot of research. Like my mum almost miscarried me. Like my dad was cheating on my mum and stuff like that, and she was bleeding everywhere, and she almost lost me as a kid. And if you're thinking in terms of like development, all that sort of stuff, I'm born anxious, I'm born stressed, pretty much, because she almost kind of lost me. So I guess all those kind of like underlying trauma, stress signals were just firing off in my body like nonstop, which would then make me, I guess, more sensitive to certain situations, because I guess my body was just full of trauma. And I think that there was a lot of things that I had to work on, but it got worse because of the anger and all the things that I was avoiding internally. So, yeah.
Thank you. For myself, it was weed initially to numb. I didn't understand. I didn't have a sounding box to actually talk. Then I got myself into oblivion for a long time. I was a local public thing, and that was my drug of choice. And I wasn't me. Getting out of me. I didn't have to be me, and I just avoided being me. I didn't have a process. Like I was under 14 state baseball player, brilliant baseball, all gone, whole lot, the waste, and that so many losses, and not having a place to vent it. And then I end up over in the UK, and I end up in a position where I had no control over my life. I ended up in a scene of people that obviously didn't have control in their life too, and then ended up into the party scene, and that felt good. And I felt comfortable in that environment because we didn't have anywhere else. And I'm presuming everybody else is exactly the same. That, when you don't have an outlet, it is your outlet. It is your escape from reality. I was speaking last week in a most amazing conversation. I used to spend a lot of time at gay bars when I was down in London, because I feel that a lot of people have trouble owning themselves, and I was so comfortable in that environment, blowing myself apart with them, because I didn't have anything to be proud of or anything. I was, so that was interesting. And then coming back home into the cocaine world, I was under so much pressure, and I didn't have a circle of influence around me that was a positive circle of influence. I had the party scene around me, so the only thing I went to was an escape from my own head and my own life, and pushing myself beyond the boundaries, doing, and that hurt a lot of people. Hurt me.
Yeah.
So that's why I did it. Go on.
Why I lost my brother. As I said, my dad went through a depression, lost worthiness to that, and I'll say it now. Me and my dad have got a really good connection. I love my dad to bits, and I don't blame him one little bit for anything. And then I went to school, and as someone with really bad depression, obviously, I had such an emptiness because I lost my brother, that any way of attention was attention. If people weren't looking at me because I was crying and I was sad, me acting out was me wanting attention. And when I was at school, mentally listening to people, basically, you were cast aside, you pushed aside, and it's don't do this, don't do that. Not how are you feeling or anything. I didn't care how you felt. So then I got addicted to violence. I used to fight and stuff like that because that was my attention. I got attention. I got by me doing that, and then I did drugs as well. Was it? As we talk about ego, the whole drug scene is ego. The whole drug scene, whether it's someone using stuff and hanging around people because they've got names in the drug world, that's feeding their ego. And then further up, that's my own opinion anyway. And then went further up, if they're selling drugs, they've got control. They're feeding their ego. And then my second brother died, and I had a car accident, and I damaged 30% of my brain, and learned how to do a lot of things again. And then after that, I was a really angry person, and I had to justify myself by sitting there beating up people who deserved it. They're a bad person, but now I look at them and go, they're people that are struggling just like me. But because they were bad people, I felt fine about sitting there doing what I belt them and sit there and collect drugs off them or whatever, and I justified myself with that. And then I did counselling with my anger, and worked on my anger and worked with breathing techniques and stuff like that when I was in my early 20s. And then after that, I was in so much pain. I was still using drugs at the time. I was in so much pain that I felt either I was going to kill myself or I was going to use drugs to numb myself. So then I chose drugs to numb myself because I didn't want my family to go through losing another child or losing another brother. So to me, it was all a mask. And when I was dealing, it was the same thing. It was a mask. It was a mask for what I was feeling because I didn't want to own how I felt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank
and
you.
It wasn't until I went through Glenn's program that I actually owned. I never dealt with losing my brothers. And it wasn't until I went through the program that I've actually been dealing with those things.
Yep. And that's look. Basically, I want to get to that in a little bit, but it's really interesting that because what I'm hearing between all of us is the fact that there's a lot of undealt with opportunity because we haven't felt safe to talk about what we need to talk about. drugs addiction, it's not an individual problem, it's a society problem. If we can allow ourselves to talk and own our battles and share our pain, then we're going to be able to grow through this, and I encourage everybody to watch the free interviews that I've done with Glenn, Bianca and Vaughn, because the stories are in there, and it's owning yourself, which if it's all right, we'll get to in a little bit. But Bianca, thank you, Vaughn.
Well, for me personally, why I used drugs at the start, it was it was an escape from reality. I was a very disconnected child. I wouldn't say that. I was very connected, but I became disconnected as I got older, and the more I was aware of what was wrong and right. I grew up in an abusive household, and I just thought that it was pretty normal. Didn't really speak about it to anybody at all. And my mum would always she was a victim of violence, and she thought that she loved this man, and she loved her children as well very much, but she obviously thought, or was made to think, that it was her fault. So we stayed in this cycle. And so by the time I was not even a teenager, by the time I was 12, and I'd learnt the right from wrong, and I suppose I was looking for an escape of somewhat, because I didn't feel connected. And I just wanted to take myself away. And I also think that it gave me a lot of confidence as well. I wasn't a very popular kid in primary school. Not that I was bullied or anything. I had great friends, but I just, I suppose I just sort of was there, and then I do think that, once, the drug use gets started, the reasons behind it all becomes very different. You get stuck in this cycle. So at the start, it's to hide your pain, and then you continue to use because you're partying and you're loving it and it's enjoyable, and, you're just having a good time. And then, you gets a little bit more, and it starts to dribble into the weekdays, and then you start to feel a little bit ashamed because you're going to work and you're feeling like shit, and you're lying and hiding things from your family and your friends, and then it becomes a shame cycle, and then you get addicted to that lifestyle. So I think that it all it changes through the cycles, and then you find yourself stuck, and the stuff that you were running away from, it doesn't go away. I said this to one of the people in the program today. At the start, I did used to say this about my own journey. At the start, I was running away from some sort of trauma and pain, and in the process, I created so much more trauma and pain. And then by the time I was ready to give up, I had to feel it all. I had to live through that pain and that emptiness, and I had to face the reality of my actions and my feelings, and I had to do it all at once. Had if I just felt everything in the process of it happening, and dealt with my emotions and dealt with reality, stuff that we're not taught to do. If I had been taught somewhere how to deal with emotions and life, I would have been able to deal with those things in the moment, and it wouldn't have escalated into what it is. We're all hurt and we're all hiding from something. If we've been on this journey, where we've fortunate enough, the four of us, we've come out the other side. But people are people, and at the end of the day, the drug use is their escape. And it's a sad reality, and it's a cycle that people get trapped into, because you go through all these stages, you get caught in shame, you get caught in the lifestyle, then who are you without these things? when you're ready to give up, who are you now that you don't have those things to rely on? Now that you don't have those labels to rely on, who are you? And you've got to live through that rebuilding stage, which is fucking lonely, and it hurts. And you go through stages of looking at yourself in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself, and you put on all this weight, you've got acne, your body's not responding to certain situations, your anxiety's through the roof, and but we've got to sit through that because it's another cycle. But yeah, it's a long-winded bit of a roller coaster rant of mine, but I do believe that people use drugs and go through different cycles of the using of drugs, and we've got to break it. We've got to break through that.
I agree. And it's a big journey. And from now, I'd like to turn over to the next question, and I'll actually start. Drug dealing, how and why? And I don't know. I went down that path. I got into it to escape, and then found that it was costing me a lot of money. So I then went through through selling it because it gave me an avenue to get my own for free. It then gave me power. That power is addictive. You're the man. You make sure your supply is good. You make sure it's good. It's a network marketing scheme at its absolute best. And once you get down into it and you get further into it, you don't trust anybody. The world is fake. The world, people don't actually want to spend time with you. They only want drugs to avoid their own pain. That's your community. That's the people you're around. You start to get very conscious of everybody in your society, in your little community. And that becomes a scary and violent place. Drug dealing, it's not something that I'm proud of. At the time, I loved it. I loved the power. I loved what it gave me. But by the end of it, I lost everything. I don't know anybody that's got out of the game that hasn't really changed. That's a big one that has to happen. Right. Vaughn?
Drug dealing and how and why. I got into drug dealing again once I recovered from my car accident, and I got into the party scene. I hard on drugs, and my biggest strength is the fact that at that point I'd lost two brothers. I nearly died in the car accident and survived. My excuse was I was living for two other people and myself, and I had no fear. I didn't care if I died, so I'd go into a situation full blast. It's not the fact I wanted to die, but I didn't give a fuck if I did, if that makes sense. And because I had that strength, people saw potential in me, and they got me involved in stuff, and I met a lot of connections that knew a lot of people, could do a lot of things. And then, exactly like you said, it's that power and control that I didn't have in my own life. So I had power and control in the world that I controlled. And I was addicted to making the money. And by the end of it, like when I went into Glenn's program, I didn't feel that I was addicted to the drugs. I was addicted to the lifestyle. I was addicted to dealing the drugs. I was addicted to the violence. That was my mask. And as I always say, addiction's addiction. Whether it's addiction completely outside of drugs, whether you're addicted to violence or addicted to sex, addiction's addiction, no matter what it is. It's a mask of something.
Yep.
But that's why I got into it, because I got people saw potential in me because I benefited them. At the time, I thought it was because they liked me and because they respected me because of what I stood for. But they didn't respect me at all. They respected me because I made their business better. I benefited them, not me. I look back on it now. At the time, I was like, oh, yeah, these people see this in me. But it's not that at all. I was still doing drugs when I got arrested and I started Glenn's program.
I'm just going to stick with that for a second, because inside the world of dealing, it does come with power. It does come with a certain amount of respect that you think you have. And I have found that in my own experience, I wasn't actually there. I felt like I had all this big bravado, but I was just empty. Is that how you felt, Vaughn?
At the time, I didn't, but when I look back on it, it's different. It's different. I said it differently. When I wanted to better myself and do something for me, they didn't ask how I was. They didn't care how I felt. It's what I could give them, and what I could get them, and what I could do for them. Even though I thought I had the power because I could supply them with top quality stuff. I could get the top quality stuff, do this and that. They were only there for that. They weren't there for me.
Yes.
But and even when I had people in a situation that would have my back no matter what, when it came to that, when it came to violence, have my back in a fight, have my back running through a door and collecting off someone. But when it came to how I felt, they didn't give a fuck. Most people didn't give a fuck. And there's very few people that I've met that I still talk to this day. And they respect me as a person. But the percentage of that is very low.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right, thank you. Thank you. And please be like this is a subject that I don't think gets talked about at all. And I really appreciate the honesty in this at the minute. So, Glenn, your experience?
For me, it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like chasing like power or anything like that. It was just like I just got caught up in this vicious cycle that was just me just escaping the reality of what was actually going on. Like obviously selling drugs and all that sort of stuff. Like when people come in the program and that's all they're talking about, I'm like, I actually don't give a fuck, because it's literally, it's like a dick measuring competition. It's a flex. It's a it's such an ego driven thing of, I guess, of what's driving that actual person themselves. So it's still an avoidance. You might have or feel like you have power in that scenario, but do you have power in your life to change? Do you have power in your life to make impact? Do you have power in your life to be your true authentic self? When people, if I'm honest, like when people come into the program, they're talking, I sold this and that and that and that, like it actually, like, I'm like, what's the relevance of that, to where you're heading and where you want to go? So I just feel, I guess, if you're chasing that, then it's, really just kind of like, having to do that deep work of like, what are you chasing? Like, why are you trying to, I guess, try to get that validation from others? Why are you trying to get that power? Well, why do you feel that you need to have power over other people as well? Because it is, I guess you could say, a manipulative trait to have as well. You have to be very grounded in who you are. And when you sort of like, I guess, pull it apart, I guess, I don't know, when people come to me and they start mentioning all these sort of things, this just, I guess, means that we've got to do a lot more work, a lot more, because it's not, because sometimes we live under the illusion and try glamorize it. We try glamorize it by, oh yeah, I was doing this, I was doing that, all that sort of stuff. When, I don't, me personally, I don't think it's something to, I don't know.
Not a glamorous
I'm
life.
going to jump on that if that's all right, because I feel like the conversation now needs to go. We've been speaking for over an hour about the topic of drugs, right? All four of us are beyond what we've been through. All four of us. We're working hard. We're doing amazing things. We're working to change different bits and pieces. The whole idea of that part of the conversation is to just be honest and let people know what happens inside that world, because people don't actually talk about that. So if it's okay with everybody, I would like to move on to the most important part of this conversation. Life beyond drugs. It's definitely. I'm just going to pop this comment up because I like everyone to read this before we get into the next bit. Bianca Vaughan, Scott, all I can say is thank you for increasing my awareness and educating me. I'm feeling pretty thankful for your sharing, and I'm feeling humbled. That's Alan Stevens. I appreciate that, Alan. So, life beyond drugs, because you've just finished your second program and you're doing amazing work. And that's what we're here about today, because I truly believe that as a society, we need to hear and learn each other, and we need to share our pain completely so that we can create a better society for us all to be a part of. I believe you three are doing that amazingly. I'm going to start with Glenn, if that's okay, to share with us your 5 steps to getting beyond drugs.
I've got, I guess, all the 5 fundamentals in my book. So the first fundamental is going back to your roots. So, obviously we lose ourselves to drugs. We lose our identity. We lose our soul. We lose our integrity. We lose so much, our honesty, our truth. We lose a lot. So it's about regaining those parts of yourself and going back to the roots and going back to the foundations where you used to be happy, and starting from there, because it's, happiness is always going to leave clues. You might hear whatever it is. It's like, oh, I used to love when, you hear people tell stories, or, I used to love when I was young and my nan used to take me to the market, or we used to sit at the beach, or whatever it is. It's like tapping into those memories, because those memories leave happiness, and they also leave clues back to, I guess, your heart, back to happiness, back to love, back to vulnerability, all that sort of stuff. So that is the first fundamental, I guess, that I have in my book. It's always going back to yourself, because it's a journey that you got to rediscover who you are as a person. And then the second fundamental is mindset, because we're forever working on our mindset, but also like listening to your mindset, not just, I guess, avoiding what comes in and what comes out. It's a shit day, I've got to block this, and, throw positive things and avoid what my body and my mind is actually telling. So, being aware and knowing to trust your intuition and ask yourself, what is it that I need to learn in this moment, and how can I learn that, and trust in the process and what you're actually feeling. I really believe there's no good or bad sort of thing. It's, because we're all going to have those sides of us that we might not like, but it's integrating all parts of ourselves as well. So doing really, really deep inner mindset work, I guess, to, put yourself, and, it's a journey. There's always going to be things that come up for you. And it's like, how can we, build that and exercise that like a muscle, because it is, and get that stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And then my third fundamental is exercise and nutrition. So I'm massive on exercising your body, making your body sweat, feeling the capabilities of your body, the strength, and everything that comes with that. When you go for a walk and you move your body, all that sort of stuff, how powerful it is. The body's designed to be moving. If you look at everything from the way we've been designed to all the muscles and all that sort of stuff, we're supposed to be moving. We shouldn't be stagnant, and we shouldn't be stale. We shouldn't be still. We should be forever moving, and also enjoying the body that we have, and I guess that fundamental comes down to respect as well. Appreciating all the foods and the healthy, nutritious things that are out there, so that your body's functioning to its fullest ability as well. So for me, that was all about respect, from being someone who abused my body so much to now, I guess, respecting myself and trying new things and being health conscious, being consciously aware of how my body can function to its fullest ability when I respect it on those angles as well. So, this is something that, I tell everyone should be doing it. You even look at all these sort of things, you're not feeling good, or even just think of how many people start running and start doing gym and all that sort of stuff. Just for an example, it all comes down to a mindset. It all comes down to an outlet. It all comes down to self-worth and respect and the endorphins and, how good they feel being outside, and, when I say exercise, it doesn't mean like we're training for a bodybuilding competition or we're training for a marathon. You got to find what works for you. So if that's, go for a walk, if that's yoga, if that's, I don't know, kettlebells or whatever it is, something just for yourself, and I think that's what's important as well. And then we got the self-development. So always learn. There's so much you can learn from everyone, but, go learn. I touched on this briefly before, but I mean, our last interview, but like sometimes we get boxed in and we think, we've had a rough path, so we just settle. So it's more about go learn the things that you've always wanted to learn. It's never too late. If you want to go get a degree or a diploma or a certificate or whatever it is, go do that. Like, what are you waiting for? And, with that self-development, you're just sharing your story as well, just passing on the knowledge that you have, because everyone has something that we can learn from as well. And I think the more that we learn, the more we're contributing back to ourselves, in terms of the knowledge that we're sharing and the experiences that we go through and the lessons, that happen for a reason, and even like what Bianca was, saying today with our 21-day people, it doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. So utilizing that and passing on that message to people that need to hear it as well. And then the last one, it's just my fifth fundamental is be you, do you. So really, really pushing limits, living life limitless and just really, really pushing those boundaries in terms of what you're capable of. Go, whether that's traveling, whether that's volunteering, whatever it is, I guess you could say like a bucket list or things that you want to achieve, because it's never too late. There's so much time and room for that to be achieved. There's so much space. And I think that is something that like people come in and they want to quit drugs. They want to get off drugs. But what excites me more is like, but what is your ultimate goal? What do you want to do with your life? I almost don't even care about the drugs thing. It excites me if someone comes in and goes, hey, I want to, start a charity to help, kids in Africa, or I want to study diploma in counseling, or I want to help more kids that are going through trauma. I want to help people with suicide or whatever it is. That excites me more, because the more purpose that we have, the more purpose that we add to ourselves, the more contribution we add to ourselves. Why would we steer off and self-destruct when we're fulfilled with the purpose that we have to contribute to the world and life that we're living in anyway? So, so that's my 5 fundamentals.
And I highly recommend everybody actually know them. And actually, it's a life strategy. It's not just getting beyond drug addiction. It's a life strategy. And that's the whole point of it. And I'm going to be a little bit cautious of a comment's just come up, which is absolutely brilliant. Glenn and B, you guys must be wrecked. You've been giving all day, and now you're up to this meeting. So I'm going to appreciate that, and I'm going to I'm going to summarise it a little bit, and then I want to answer some questions for that reason. And I really appreciate whoever said that, which was Melissa. Thank you so much. Life beyond drugs, Bianca, what's it like? Having value stuff, what's it like?
Do you know, I actually sometimes look back at myself or read something I've written or even talk about my story, even with you the other day, and I feel like I'm talking about someone else. I just feel like it's a brand new life. I took my recovery very seriously. I lived through the loneliness, through the pain, through the not recognizing myself. I literally got rid of or stopped having anything to do with anything that I was before. I have a handful of friends that I've known since I was really young that have always been there for me. I still have them, but there's absolutely no drug relation there. But I mean, personally, like clothing, jewelry, books, DVDs, anything that I related to my life then, I didn't take into my new life because it was like shedding layers. And, I was saying the other day to the guys in the group that I read a book after I got clean and after I did all this shedding of layers, and it was called I Can See Clearly Now. It's by Dr. Wayne Dwyer, and he speaks about doing that, like getting rid of everything that he owned and becoming a new person and not taking any of that stuff on with him into his new life. And I've also read another book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It's by Robin Sharma. And the concept is the same there as well. He literally just gets rid of his Ferrari and starts a whole new life. And people can't believe that, you would just get rid of a Ferrari and start this boring life. Why would you do that? But, it comes down to, being happy with yourself and not needing these things and not carrying something that doesn't serve you anymore into your new life. You literally become a new person. I'm a new person. I thank her every day. I thank her for the actions that she that she took. And, I thank her for being brave enough to step into the unknown and become something that she never dreamt of becoming before. I thank her every day for, putting trust in Glenn and building that relationship, that friendship there. And, I just thank her every day because life beyond drugs is amazing. And being able to share my story, the one thing that I want people to know, and I said it in our one-on-one, it's, you can change your mind at any point of your life. Something that you've always liked, something that you've always done, it does not have to serve you for your whole life. And that goes with everything: relationships, food, jobs, anything. You do not have to be stuck to a thought pattern or an action. You can literally say something and then go, actually, you know what? That's not what I believe. I actually have changed my mind, and this is what I believe. I said it about pumpkin in our one-on-one, realizing that I didn't remember why I was saying that I hated pumpkin. I hadn't tasted it in almost 30 years. Do I really not like pumpkin? It's just being able to change your mind and, change your identity and, change your expectations for yourself as well, become your potential. And that's what I want everybody to know through my story and my journey.
Awesome. Thank you. Vaughn, life beyond drugs, what's it like? What's
Life beyond drugs. When I was arrested in December, I've put on 28 kilos since then. I feel healthier, even though I still struggle with my sleep. Being grateful for things, you have more gratitude. You enjoy the things around you, and you don't need a substance or anything like that to enjoy the things. And I enjoy helping people and giving. I'm happy with no materialistic items. No, nothing around me because I feel good with myself, with my son, and the thing that changed me to the life beyond drugs was the second session I had with Glenn. The question about going back to your core beliefs.
Yeah.
Going back to your core beliefs, the things that I stand for and I believe in. The biggest one was when I was doing drugs, I never let that life come anywhere near my son. But if I was living two lives, how was I being true to myself, being real to myself? So that's the biggest thing for people, to be real to yourself and be honest to yourself. And like I said in the other one, talking about accountability, it's self-accountability, being accountable for yourself, and you make the choices. It's up to you to make the choices. You can only react and choose what you can choose. You can't change the world around you. And the drugs mask that. And the life beyond there, I'm happy with where I am in my life. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And I've been clean, 10 months now. It's about 10 months, I think. But and I'm happy. My life's taken dramatic change.
I'm loving this. I'm just loving it because there's 4 people on this screen at the minute that have done it all the hard way. And it took us to all hit the wall hard before anything changed. The thing is, I don't want to ever rob anybody from their pain, but I do want to teach people how to use it. Life beyond drugs. I'm an ultra marathon runner. I did 156 Ks in 3 days, and it was a fantastic opportunity. In lockdown, I was on a treadmill, and this is one of the greatest analogies for my life so far. I put it out there for everybody. I was going to do 200 Ks in 4 days, and normally I always push through, get it done, no matter what the consequences were. The treadmill was pulling me. Couldn't get out on the road, and I was on the treadmill of life. I ended up having an argument with my wife because I was tired and I was exhausted. This is day 3. I come back out, and I started talking, and I stopped. I stopped the circle of life that I was in. I had a choice. I had a choice to get off that treadmill before I destroyed myself and caused more pain for other people again. It's only people in my life, in my direct family, but we all have that choice. And I see that's exactly where we're at. Right now, we're at a time of life in society where we can all make choices that can give us a better life and a better understanding of each other and reconnect. We're all in Melbourne, we're all in lockdown, and I'm actually very grateful for it because we're able to have conversations like this and work out what's important. Where you are right now does not determine where you will end up. I can promise you that. So on that, I'd really like to open up to questions. We've been going for nearly an hour and a half, and it's raw, it's honest, and we're going to take a few questions. Is that all right, guys? How's your energy? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
All right, thank you. Well, grab a drink, quick bite to eat. Lee, thank you so much for this. I hope you're still on. The questions come through. Here we go. As 2 parents that have had and still do have loving relationship, don't argue, don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, and have awesome relationships with their 4 children, what advice can you give us as our beautiful 16-year-old son has been smoking marijuana since Feb? We honestly have an amazing life and have always put our children first. I'm listening to your tumultuous upbringing, and I can understand why you feel you needed drugs, but we are mystified why our boy has changed. Glenn, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah. So like, so me and Bianca, like for instance, or let's say me, Bianca, and Vaughn, we all come from the same home. We have the same parents. They both love us a lot, you know, and we have the best parents ever. Yeah, but you know, I end up on drugs, and both Bianca and Vaughn don't. You know, no matter what we go through from other people's perspective, and you might look at someone and go, oh, well, that's not bad. The trauma response, or how you respond to that trauma, is, I guess, your own experience that we can't take away from anyone. So essentially, you know, the parents might be like, oh, but everything's good here. Like, what have we done? But I don't get it. Like, I understand with people in broken homes, all that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, okay, cool, that's obvious or whatever. But you know, it's the underlying issues that the actual person goes through as well. That individual, it's all an individual response to the trauma or to the event that's happened to them. So you know, it in terms of like addiction, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't discriminate, because it's going to get that person's response, or get that person on how they responded to that actual situation. So, you know, I might mention something to someone that you're like, huh, that doesn't sound bad, or whatever it is, but it's my experience and it's my story on how I went through that, which then turns into a traumatic experience because you're reliving it. And then, you know, the emotions and everything that come with that, on how that person experienced that actual situation as such. So in terms of, you know, when parents don't, I guess, understand it from their perspective, ask yourself is, can you understand it from their perspective, as in the child? So instead of trying to look at it from there, it's like, oh, we as parents have done good. We've done, school's done this, we've done this, we've provided. I don't get it. Change that perception that you have from your point of view, and maybe get some insight from the child's point of view. You know, and I think understanding the person can be insightful on how you can help them next. Because from their perspective, they might be like, you know, we've done everything. But again, it's that individual response, that individual's experience that we can't judge or take away from them. So I would say understand your child's perspective, you know, because, you know, when you say that, that's your perspective of the experience in the situation. So, you know, look at things differently so you can understand your child's perspective and have that conversation. I think sometimes we're so scared to have that conversation, or we don't want to, all that sort of stuff. Have that conversation and get to know, educate yourself, like from their perspective, like get to know them. Like, you know, we're not supposed to get it always, you know. So if we say we've provided our kids everything, their experience could be completely different to that as well. And even when I tell my story as well, when Vaughn's told his story, you know, I still, you know, my experience is completely different to what my dad's experience is of the situation. He's like, what do you mean? I worked 12 hours non-stop. I sent you to private schools. I sent you to all the good, like, athletics coaches. I got you all the, you know. He's literally like confused. He's like, what? You know, all that sort of stuff. So, you know, it's sometimes we've got to put our walk in the other person's shoes, I guess, and just look at it from a different perspective. That's what I would say anyway.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bianca, do you want to add to that?
Oh, I think that was perfect. I really do. Like, it does come down to everything that Glenn just said, and, you know, the individual's belief systems as well, how they perceive the things going on around them. You know, like, I loved the analogy that Glenn made with the three of us being brought up in the same family, because, you know, I've read it somewhere before, something like that. Like, one child can perceive something in a certain way, and another child can perceive it in a totally different way, because at the end of the day, we're all totally different people, and the way we perceive things comes down to our belief system and, you know, like what's happened to us as individuals. So, yeah, I think that was great. Perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vaughn.
I'm like Glenn. I'm all about perspectives, and in the drug world, you see people who've come from the sunniest lives. You think nothing's happened to them, but you can't compare pain. You can't sit there and go, someone's had a really bad upbringing, this and that. But you can't compare pain. My pain of losing my brothers, that's the hardest pain for me. But someone's biggest fall, they might be ignored because, like, so say a family's working all the time and they feel left out, and that could be a reason behind it. And like Bianca said, their belief system is huge into that. And you can't compare pain just because you've had different lifestyles. You could have 3 people sitting in a room and watch the same thing happen, and all 3 people will explain it differently. And they sit there and say there's 3 sides to every story. Exactly, because everyone's perspective is different.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so I'm going to throw my 2 bob in too, and I'm going to explain it pretty simply. What's this? We all agree it's a pen? Yeah?
Blue
pen?
pen.
Yeah. Do we all agree that that's something we write with? Yeah. Do you think we've all had the same experiences with this pen? Not one of us can think about this pen the same way, because every single one of us has written a different letter, has written a different signature, has done different things with this pen. Yet we all agree it's a pen. Appreciating everybody's differences and actually understanding people's experiences is how we move forward. My suggestion is you've already accepted the fact that they're using it. The drug isn't the problem. There's other things in their life that they're not doing to grow. There was a comment earlier, about being green and growing, and you know it was a great comment because you know I appreciate Vaughn said that's about green, and I think it was more about the fact that we're either green and growing or we're ripe and rotting. So finding things to grow is one of the most important things. Vaughn getting his Cert 3, you know, I want to find the money. I want us to supply the money for Vaughn to do his Cert 4 because he's doing amazing things. Because growth is where you actually get beyond it. I myself, I had the opportunity. I didn't have anything in my life. I just worked, grind, doing what I think I had to do. Not until I started learning that I started really getting beyond my opportunities. So I started pushing myself. So the marijuana is the problem. The problem will be something else, and we just need to investigate that and give opportunities. Even better, do Glenn's program. You yourself do Glenn's program so you understand it. Lead by example. I think that's also a good, fantastic way to do things. So, questions, guys. If you're sitting there watching, we've got quite a few viewers. I would really like TJ, pen license. Don't worry, mate. I haven't got mine either. So, guys, ask away.
TJ, a legend.
Yeah. Oh, look, TJ, I'm looking forward to getting to know you. If you've got questions right now and you want them answered, we're here for this. It doesn't matter what the questions are. I would hate to waste this opportunity of us sitting here with a huge amount of knowledge and love. And I want to bring that into it too. Because talking to everybody off screen, love is the only way in which we get through this. And I'll go into it quickly. If you're a parent and your child using drugs, the shame that you hold inside your body and the way in which you want them to get out of it, you don't have to say a word for them to feel that. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Okay, awesome. Here's a good one. What's involved in the program? Well, I think what we'll do is we'll post it up after this, and we'll share the program if that's okay, Glenn. If your technological skills can do that for me, because mine can't. All right. So we've got another one coming in.
And you've got 2 successes here.
Yeah, 3. And so it started with Glenn. So As a parent, sometimes I feel I did the best job that I could. And I say, because their father was present but not available, I was trying to be both mother and father. All three of them have had issues with drugs. In saying that, though, I am very fortunate to have tight, loving relationships with them and their partners. It's not your fault. You did the best you can with what you've got.
Yeah. Just because your child uses drugs doesn't make you a bad parent. I came from a really good home, really loving parents. My parents loved me, and they still do. You know, it's sometimes I like to say, parents, it's not about you, because I've been thinking it's all that sort of stuff. And you're right. Your kids are so lucky, and lucky to have you to play both parts and be that for them. And I'm sure they appreciate that on all levels as well. So that I wouldn't, use that. That doesn't, what you've done is enough. It always has been.
Bang. Can I just ask one question right now? All four of us have been through the drug scene. Are any of us blaming our parents for any of it?
No.
Are you surprised at how much our parents actually did for us now that you know the whole story?
Mm.
They do love you.
100%.
Yeah, totally. Like I said on our one-on-one, I my mum was there the whole time, and I was trying to find the same sort of nurturing and love in all the wrong places, because, in my mind, I had it made up that she didn't love me or that I didn't matter. Yeah.
And how much do you matter?
Oh, I'm like number one daughter.
The most beautiful thing.
I'm the only daughter.
Yeah, but yesterday when you actually contacted me, my mum wants to see the interview.
Yeah.
I just melted.
Her friends. My mum doesn't have Facebook, but her friends do, and they jumped over onto the page and watched it and told her that she had to watch it. And she watched it today. She must have used someone's Facebook, and she cried. So yeah. I mean, she's heard me talk 1,000 times before, but I think that, the more you grow and develop, the more you have an understanding behind, certain situations and why you might have made the choices that you did and what you were searching for and what, what was actually really going on. The further you get away from the situation, it becomes a lot clearer. So when I spoke in our one-on-one the other day, I can see it clearly now, like the situation with my mum, and I know 100% that, that she loved me and everything she did was for me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. We've got quite a few questions coming through, and I would really like to try and answer them all. So we'll see how we go. When you guys have had enough, put your hands up, okay? Because this conversation, when you're talking as deeply and as heavily as we are, it takes a lot of energy out of you. We're happy to give that and give that and give that, but it's no difference to the journey of getting beyond drugs. It takes a lot of energy. So you've got to accept the fact that you're going to get tired, you're going to get worn down. That's part of the journey.
If it helps people, I'll be here all night.
I'm totally all for answering the questions. I am fairly exhausted, but I'm all for these questions. Let's slay them out.
I'll be here all night if it helps people.
Hey, I'm with you. All right.
I feel bad. I'm here all night.
I'm the same. But Glenn, if you want to check out.
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Okay. Do you all battle with still wanting to use again?
No.
No,
not at all. Nope. Not one bit.
I did at the start, but not now.
Yep.
I think people talk a lot about I think people talk a lot about triggers, and like if you get triggered by something and then you use and stuff like that. So I think that once you identify what triggers you and you work through it, like there's no such thing as a trigger anymore. You know, you work through your pain and you identify the triggers, and you identify where that's coming from and why that's triggering you, and you work through that pain, and it doesn't become something that controls you anymore.
Cool.
Yeah.
Through the
Self-accountability. You're accountable for yourself.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no reason to.
Yeah. And that's awesome. For me, I'm going to say yeah. Okay, because I make sure now that I don't go into my communities where that is. I ensure that I don't associate with situations that will put me into the danger zone for me. You know, if I'm out partying with the boys, then that's not a great environment for me. After COVID, it's something that I'm very worried about, is the fact that nobody's seen anybody for ages. We're going to go out and get all excited, go out and drink and have fun and cause chaos because we're just going to be overly excited. So I've actually organised for myself to go away with 6 mates down to Apollo Bay, sit down, have good food, yoga, do riding, have a massage, and actually break down the lessons that we've learnt inside COVID. Come out of this with a massive positive, because you know it's still inside my circles. So I have to ensure that I don't put myself into that way. So is it a battle that yes, it's still a battle. I have to choose my environment.
It doesn't have to be, though. We want these people to know that there is a way out. You know, we want them to know that, you know, you don't have to battle with triggers and addiction for the rest of your life. We really, like, our message today should be, you know, you can make a recovery that doesn't keep you bound up and doesn't make you scared to go out of your house. We want them to know that, you know, you can work through it. And, you know, you don't have to be a prisoner in your own life because of the, you know, like, external factors of, you know, going out to a club or something like that. Yes, I don't put myself in those positions because I don't enjoy it. I said to my friend the other day, you know what, I feel like I want to go for a good dance at a club. I know that, you know, I've worked through it all and I can put myself there and not be triggered by anything. And that's what we want everybody to know. We want everybody that uses drugs to know that they can make 100% a recovery and not live with triggers and the feeling of wanting to use for the rest of their lives, because that keeps people in that cycle. If they feel like they're going to be stuck feeling like they're going to use all the time, then they're just going to keep using. Nobody wants to feel like a prisoner in that situation.
And I really appreciate that, because it's something that is an opportunity to talk about, because there's a definite no. For me, it's about choosing my scenario. That's the way in which I work through my stuff. Choose my environment. So, all right, move along. Maybe I have to come and do the program.
Jump on board.
I tend to do it anyway because I want to understand it better. So, do you think there's any safe amount of drug use? Are there people that truly use just drugs because they like them, or is there always an underlying pain underneath, in your guys' opinions? Bianca?
Drugs.
So, this is an interesting topic, right? And I'll explain. There's a lot of different research about a lot of different opportunities, and there's so many different drugs, different purposes, different everything. Some say they're safe, some say they're not. For me, it's about having enough value in yourself that you don't need them. So that's what I'm working towards.
That's so correct.
Yeah.
Mm.
Vaughn?
Well, yeah, the drugs, a safe amount of drugs to use. At the end of the day, people have drugs to sleep and stuff like that. Addiction's addiction.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, like I said before, that it doesn't have to be a drug to be addiction either, but addiction is addiction no matter what it is. There's no safe amount if you're using it to escape pain. And they sit there and talk about all these cannabis will be legal soon, this will be legal soon. It doesn't make it an excuse for you to have a habit. It doesn't give you an excuse going, oh, it's going to be legal soon anyway. If it's addiction regardless. And so that's why I say about safe amount. If you're escaping something, it's not a safe amount of anything.
That is probably one of the best ways I've heard it put, because alcohol is a legal product. People use that to escape, and alcohol addiction's huge. So, yeah, and pharmaceutical meds, everything. So that's a tough question, Glenn.
Yeah, I just, it just depends if we're like, are we, I guess, abusing the situation? I think there's a difference. Like, you know, addiction, you can be addicted to anything. You can be addicted to Facebook and food and all that sort of stuff. Like, are we abusing the situation, and what are we escaping? Is there things that we need to work on? All that sort of stuff. You know, or yeah, I just but you know, it, like, I think it depends what we're kind of like, I guess, talking about in terms of like what drugs as well, because, you know, there's lots of research and stuff like that in terms of, you know, especially, you know, I've been doing looking into a lot of trauma and stuff like that. There's research of, you know, revisiting your trauma with what do you say, like supervised sort of like, you know, whatever it is. But if we're talking like drugs on the weekend, you're having your benders, all that, and you're just getting back to 9 to 5, then it's never gonna kind of work. We're talking about abuse, abusing the situation, the addiction, all that sort of stuff. I think it's kind of like two kind of different things, depending like what it is anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because like, you know, even if you think about antidepressants and stuff like that, you know, I'm not like always like live on that for the rest of your life, but sometimes some people need it in order to build new neuro pathways to understand that they don't need that anymore. So, you know, even things for like anxiety and stuff like that. So I always used to be like, no. But if someone has anxiety, let's just say when they go to work, every time they go to work, they feel anxious. But then now they're taking, you know, a prescription or whatever it is, to help them with that trauma. And then now they've built new pathways so that they're not feeling that anxiety. And then you do the work, and then you know, and then you don't no longer need it anymore. So it depends. That's such a broad, like, but if you mean like just drugs on the weekend, like party here, sniffing some coke here and all that, then no, I don't. Yeah, definitely not.
I agree with you. Like, there's a difference between party, drugs, and addiction, and the addiction side of things, because there's lots of people, and I think if people were actually honest and put their hands up and said, "Yeah, look, I've tried drugs," you'd be surprised at how many people have had them.
Yeah, and I think the intention behind it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're just taking it to get fucked up, then it's fucked up.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's also your environment, everything. There's so many things. Like, it's funny. Why do we walk out of hospital after taking the strongest morphines and heroines, yet we're not addicted? That's a really big thing, you know. And we haven't got the attachment. There's no emotional attachment. Been in hospital, you've been fixed. Okay, it's finished. You're out. But that's a whole nother subject. I think I actually would love to see more research and more money spent on that side of things, because there's a couple of books I'm looking forward to reading Glenn's, but Johan Hari has done Lost Connections and also Chasing the Scream. And the drugs in themselves, if they weren't cut to the bejesus and put all this extra crap in, they would probably be better for the people that are using them. That's what happens in the hospital. They get pure form. They don't get the cut and mixed up version. But that's another conversation.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to the intention behind it.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, obviously in the hospital, if it was morphine or whatever, it's not like, oh, we're just going to hook you up now to get fucked up or to have a good time. You know what I mean? There's The intention behind is obviously different as well.
That's massive. Intention in behind. That's a whole nother conversation, which I think we'll probably might have another day, I think.
But prescription drugs get abused as well, just as much as any other drug.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can I add something just to this question, just to reassure some people out there that you can't go from, addiction to a safe amount of drugs.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. You cannot, there is no, I'm just going to go from everyday addiction use to, all right, I've been clean for 6 months, I'm just going to use every now and then when I go to a party or a club or something like that. That does not exist. It does not exist at all whatsoever. So don't get these conversations confused with that as well. It's just,
yeah. 100%.
That's when the relapse gets deeper.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're just fooling yourself. That's where you're just convincing yourself there isn't a problem when there is.
Yep. No, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I'm just going to throw up this statement before we get to the next question, because I'm loving listening to your stories, guys. Recently mending fences in my family since my step-siblings have gotten clean in the last 12 months. Understanding compassion and listening to their perspective. I see that reflected here too. Thank you so much. And that is the only way to get beyond this, is with compassion and understanding. Accept what is. You can't change what's happened. You can accept where you're at and then get a better understanding, then respond to that opportunity. And I think that's, for me, that's values I implement into every situation so that I can get beyond them. I've got my own personal set of values that I hold myself to, and then I've got my values of how I deal with situations, which it makes a difference to the way in which I deal with things. Anybody want to say anything about that? Oh, next question. Cool. Glenn, do you have programs to go into schools, plans to go into schools with your program?
Yeah, definitely. I've last year as well, and I was supposed to go this year, just running workshops in schools. 1-day workshops, 2-day workshops. Absolutely. Definitely.
So I'm going to throw this up right now. We need funding for Glenn. We need funding to get Glenn's program, get Bianca working full-time for Glenn, get Vaughn doing what he does. We need funding to make this happen. If you're watching this right now and you've been affected by this, find out how you can support things that do good in the community. Support Glenn's program. Support the guys. So, all right. So I'm looking through everything. So that's it. I can't see any more questions coming through. If anybody has any...
Sorry, I did see one come through that I thought was actually really good.
Actually,
do you mind if I find it?
Yeah, I'll look back as well.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry. I flicked way too far forward. There's
one that says, why do you think drug users push other people to use drugs even if they know how much damage is done to them? Do you mind if I...
No, go.
Can we put that question up?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
I seen it flick up, and I just caught my eye because I really do think that there's people aren't bad people. It's just, hurt people, but I don't truly believe that people mean to. Just what I've learned along the way, I think if people push, I don't know if that's a good use of word, but push people to use drugs, I feel like, it's an escape for them. Why wouldn't it be an escape for someone else as well? I think that, there's a lot of, I think maybe I've got a little bit of a naive mindset now about it, but I do think that, not people aren't all bad. And if it's an escape for me, why won't it be an escape for you? And I just feel like people don't think much into it. And if they do, they just see it on that level of it's taken me to this place. here you go, give it a go. You know, are you stressed, or, you know, you want to party, or, you know, I don't really believe that people put like a lot of thought into offering drugs to people at all whatsoever.
I agree completely. I think it comes back to the pen. We've all got our own experiences. I'm feeling good in this scenario. Here, try this. I'm feeling good. You know, so environment's a pretty big thing. Glenn, great job, Bianca, picking that up. We've got so many questions. I'm sorry. Glenn, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I just agree with Bianca. I agree. Doesn't disagree. I agree with Bianca. It's an unconscious thing, so I don't even think you're really consciously like you're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. It's just yeah. I agree with what you just said. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the questions, and because we've got a lot coming through, I'm actually going to choose. Sorry, I shouldn't try and eat and keep my energy up. We just put our hands up. So who wants to answer the question? All right. Because we're going to get a few. If you use drugs to escape reality, is it a problem if you have a drug to enhance reality? Then that's different. Okay, that's not one. All right, good. Sorry.
I just need a buzzer.
So, Glenn, your book, where can people buy it?
You can buy my book off youthuprogram.com. So on my website.
Can you put that up on this as well, please?
Yep.
Yeah.
If you click on his name, you got the shop there, don't you, Glenn?
Yeah.
Yeah. What the name he's tagged on is the shop on his Facebook too.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. What are your thoughts on prescription drugs that can kill us when we are feeling suicidal? Go on.
I think the prescription drugs, there's a huge problem with prescription drugs, and they prescribe drugs that are addictive to people when they're in a mental state as well. Most of those drugs, they don't have a high success rate. I've got a really good doctor, and I find a big problem with that is GPs. GPs aren't psychiatrists, and they should be sent to a psychiatrist for something to do with the mood stabilizer and stuff of medications that can kill people. And there's a big market out there. When I was dealing with drugs, there was a huge market of prescription drugs. So someone gets them at like a small price, and then they sell them, and they're addictive drugs. I think there's a big problem with prescription drugs, and they give drugs that are easily suicidal dosage to people that if they have a few of them, they die, and they overprescribe people.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. And that's with your experience. I just would like to throw something into this that's been my opportunity. When people are in pain and you're in mental pain and you're in your head, it's not just in your head. You actually carry it in your physiology, through your neuro pathways. Your shoulders are down. All parts of your energy are down. One of the things that I find absolutely brilliant is finding a good chiropractor to get an adjustment so that your neuro pathways can start flowing properly. It's a big part of my practice that if I'm working with somebody who's not quite feeling right and feeling the pressures of life, I take them to my chiropractors. I have two inside my circle that I think are brilliant. Try anything to get your physiology better. I think that's a great thing before you get into the medications. Just a walk is brilliant. Just a walk. But those little adjustments, you never know. Like you might have I'm not a medical expert, but if you've got a bit of a compression in your spine and you're not flowing correctly through your whole body, it adds tension to all parts of your body. Likewise with your mental opportunities. If you're feeling the mental pressure is right, it goes into your muscles, everything. So have a look at those sorts of things as well. Don't just stick to one thing. And I think that's one of the things that I think is so pivotal in life. And that's why Glenn's program works so well. It doesn't look at one area. It's not one area that you've got to fix. There's lots of areas. But don't take it on all at once. Take on one part, improve that. Take on another part, improve that. One thing at a time, improve them. incrementally, 1% improvement every day has a massive compound interest. So, yeah. Anyone want to put anything onto that?
No, it's good.
Cool.
And my only response with the prescription as well, I've seen someone go save their life. That's not saying that prescription drugs don't help people. What I said either. I was just replying to one of the comments I seen that I'm not saying that some of them don't help.
I'm actually we're 2 hours in. I'm actually going to pull the pin. I'm starting to get a bit weary, and there's an amount of questions in there. So what we might actually do is follow up on the questions outside of it. I'm going to ask everybody to, if you have an opportunity that you want to help with, or you got a question you want answered, that one, Bianca?
Yeah. We have a 10 a.m. Zoom.
Who said that?
I can't see. No, but I'm probably going to be the one that sleeps in because Glenn used to being up this late.
Well, here's the thing, right? This has been a major conversation that I'm so grateful that we're having. I'm so grateful that we're opening it up, the truth behind everything. There's no bullshit on the table. It's honest. It's where we're at, and it's the ways in which we move forward. Anybody at any point in time can reach out to any one of us four, and we will assist you in getting the opportunities you need. What I'm going to ask everybody for is one bit of advice to somebody who is an addict at the moment. What's the one bit of advice you would give them? I'm going to start with Vaughn, please.
Be accountable for yourself, not your surroundings, and you have a choice in your situation. You can't control what's going on around you. You can only control what you do and the choices you make and how you react to things.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bianca.
One thing.
Yep.
Oh, so many are popping to my mind, but I've touched on it before, and it is change. Like, you don't where you are right now doesn't dictate where you will go. You are more than capable to change. Your addiction is not you. It's a label that you've given to yourself, and you are capable of amazing things. You will move mountains. You just have to believe in yourself, and be open to changing your mind about things, and just realizing that what is in your life now doesn't need to serve you forever.
Brilliant. Thank you.
It was 10.
Another one on. No, all right, we'll summarize it. You can change. That's what sounds it needs substance and depth. I needed the other words. I go back to my other statement. Pre-Glenn.
That's funny because I had two, but you took both of them. So.
Yeah, I was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Bianca. It is awesome. Glenn.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know if there's anything left after that. I think what I just say is, like, back yourself up, like, back yourself, and know that you deserve it just like anybody else.
Awesome. Thank you. For me, simple. Thank you for being here. You are important. Where you are right now does not determine where you'll end up. There's 4 people on the screen showing you that right now.
Mm. Can I say one? And also just one more thing. I think it's, I think just like, when I say, back yourself up and move, like, forgive yourself. It's okay. Like, that as well.
Look, as you can clearly see, there's a mountain of goodness in this, but it all starts with love. It all comes with the love. people genuinely care about each other. And when you realize that people do love you, you know, that's a big, profound moment. But love is the only answer to any way of getting through this. So on that, thank you so much, guys. This has been amazing. 2 hours of just honesty. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you so much, Bianca. Thank you so much, Vaughn. And I want to give a big shout out to the Youth U program. Everybody's doing it at the minute. Everybody that's watching this. And also Victorian Brotherhood. Victorian Brotherhood are doing some of the most amazing stuff I have ever seen inside a time of absolute devastation for some people. Support the Victorian Brotherhood. Support the Youth U program. Let's get around it. Thanks, guys. Take care, campers. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Vaughn.
Thank you. Thanks, Glenn.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.